So I just wanted to welcome all of you, May the 26th, to our final presentation from the different projects that we have developed in this bootcamp 2023. We have many different participants for today's session, but you already know our two leaders. You already know them. These two women are incredible, amazing women who have made all of this possible. And first of all, we have Yuma Insolia, who represents ESL, and we have also Dr. Toro. And now I'm going to pass it over to Maria so she can actually give us her welcoming remarks, and then we will proceed with Yuma as to explain the methodology that we'll have for today's session. So please, Maria, the floor is yours. Good morning. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Please welcome to this session that we're having today in order to present the different projects that we have developed hand in hand with all the different projects and all the different groups. And I'm sure that the results we'll see today are going to be amazing. And we are looking forward to seeing what the results are of these incredible efforts that we have conducted so far. So Tatiana will be our moderator today. And by the end of today's session, we are going to award our to give our award to the best team and also to the best mentor. And after that, we are going to also award the university that was engaged in the Green Pulse initiative from UNICEF. And then we're going to have some words. We're going to announce who the winner was and who or which student actually got to engage more students in their university. It is an honor for me to see you today. Here we have representation of many different countries in both Latin America and the American and the Caribbean region, and also from Spain. And let me tell you that we're very proud to have you all here. So Yuma, please proceed. The floor is yours. Thank you very much, Maria and Tatiana. I'd like to welcome you all for this closing session of this boot camp that we have during this year. And just like Mrs. Maria Toro was saying, we are very pleased to have you all here and to have you all joining us in today's session, which is just looking for ways to socialize everything that you've done and everything that we've done in the last couple of months in such a way that we can actually guarantee inclusive education in terms of sustainable education. And especially with the last reports that we have raised at UNESCO, we discovered that 40% of our teachers are already exhausted and they don't know how to implement all the tools that they have at their hands. So that's why we want to acknowledge everything that you've developed and everything that you've done so far, because this is absolutely key for every single thing and every single initiative that we are going to undertake in each of our institutions, as to guarantee quality models that are going to abide by the principles of just and inclusive education. Once again, please be welcome to today's sessions. And now with this, I'd like to go back to Tatiana so we can have the different instructions. So proceed with today's session. Of course, thank you very much to both of you for your welcoming remarks. And again, I'd like to welcome each of the participants that are joining us today. And this is nothing but just an acknowledgement to all of the different groups and all of the different universities that participated in this bootcamp 2023. So with this in mind, we're going to start with today's presentation, and we are going to have in total 10 minutes by university, but each one of you will have 5 minutes for your presentation, and then we'll have extra 5 minutes for the assessors or the evaluators to conduct their questions. I'm gonna ask you to please turn your microphones off, and we are going to ask you just to unmute yourself whenever you are conducting your presentation. I'm gonna be controlling, I'm gonna be the timekeeper, and as soon as you are 1 minute away from finishing your presentation, we're going to let you know, and we're going to make sure that you actually spend just 5 minutes in your presentation. So if you see, let's say, a blue check in my image, it means that you have 1 minute left to conclude your presentation. And we're going to be very strict with this time management, because we want to have everybody's voices today. So please make sure if you have this green check that you can see right now on my screen, it means that you have 1 minute left. This is our today's agenda, and we are going to go, without any further ado, we are going to start with the Benemérita University. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and now the Benemérita University can start sharing their screen. And as soon as you get started, I'm going to start with the timekeeping. And we also have our chat enabled for any questions that you may have. And please also remember that this video conference or this call also has simultaneous interpretation for you to listen to this presentation in the language of your preference, English or Spanish. So we are going to proceed now with the Beneméritas University. All right, good morning. I'm sorry, but I'm not allowed to share my screen. Just give me 1 second to see how can I share my presentation. Let me see, Gabriela, let me give you a hand. And can you please let me know from each university who is going to be sharing the presentation so we can actually enable the permissions necessary for you to share your screens. All right, now you can share your slides. And please, in the chat box, let me know who is going to be the one doing the presentation or the spokesperson so I can enable the necessary permissions. I think you can now see. Okay, good morning, everybody. I am very pleased to be joining you today after all this work that we've done in the last couple of months. And as you said before, I represent the first team that is made up by Diego Andres Rivas, Nancy Lopez, Noel Zamora, who is a student from the bachelor's degree in the educative processes that is working with us in this bootcamp, and of course myself, who are part of the Benemérita University of Puebla. This curricula design that we had has to do with what we do, and it is working on the human and social area. We are talking about the healthcare, community participation, and environment participation, and we are focused on working on experiential kind of processes and the importance that this kind of area has in the development of different kind of projects with a social impact that has in mind the sustainability, both within our institution, but also outside our institution, what kind of impact it is going to have in the future. In that sense, we have looked for ways for the student to actually have a reflective and critical thinking in terms of everything that happens around themselves in such way that they can actually draft proposals that are within the reach. One of the practices that we had within the project that we have with our students was looking for ways of engaging our students in different kind of activities, both at the institutional level, but also in specific terms in everything that has to do with the protection of the environment and how to collect, for example, seeds, and how to work with nurseries. And so we want our students to be aware about the environmental impact that they may have in a way that they are going to assess what their impact might be on nature and how this is going to impact the rest of their life. Our curricular design is also aimed at providing our students with an enriching opportunities that is going to promote the development of different skills and how to work on different skills in terms of conflict resolution. And in that sense, we have done our best for our learning objectives to be addressed to the SDG number 3, number 5 that has to do with gender equity, and the number 10 that has to do with opportunities, and number 13, and of course the SDG number 4 that is the one articulating everything that has to do with the with education and the quality of education, not only for this specific undergraduate degree that we were working with, but the general education, the education in general terms. In the left side part of this slide, we can tell you that we have used different strategies for the head, heart, and hands. So it is important in, let's say, conceptual terms to have a clear understanding of the contents by understanding the different environmental issues of their communities and understanding how they can connect all of this with the gender perspective and the environmental perspective in such a way that they can identify different cases that represent this kind of issues and how they can incorporate this kind of contents for different enhancements or different improvement proposals. With that, we want to make our students aware of their impact and how they are going to tackle all of these different issues and how they can communicate all these different issues to their communities. Now, in terms of what they do with their hands, we want our students to be able to use every single opportunity that they may have in the future for their own education or for their own training processes, and to use this kind of knowledge in different common situations, which is going to range from the identification of issues, for example, taking care of trees, till the impact that it may generate in different communities. Now, in terms of the development of skills, we have focused or we have approached this aspect in the ways that they can actually communicate their experiences and their achievements as such in different ways. For example, as producing wool, newspaper, and whenever they use this and whenever they share this kind of initiatives, they can include or they can understand how they can impact all of this from the healthcare provision, and they can also understand how they can experiment on this in terms of the environmental education, as to understand how they can impact, for example, different issues in terms of social inclusion and gender inclusion and reforestation as well. And we think that this could also be a positive impact in terms of the climate change that we are suffering right now. And in general terms, or in brief, I want to say that we have developed Manuela, you're up. So this is just the general dashboard about the data. Is there any closing remarks that you'd like to include? Yes, I just want to say that our distribution was focused on the heart and hand relationship in terms of how to work with others. And in that sense, we wanted to have this experience-based learning in terms of, for example, the drafting of infographics and different or other initiatives. I'm sorry I've run out of time, but there are so many things that we did. I'm sorry. Yes, from the Benemérita University of Puebla. I'm sorry to cut you off, but now I'm going to just open up the floor to the different evaluators, so Miguel, Monica, and Naira, who are joining us today as the evaluators of these initiatives. Okay, good morning. I am very pleased to be in today's session that is actually quite inspiring. I think that every single thing that we're going to be hearing today is going to be fully inspiring. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the team from this university for such an amazing proposal, because it is inspired in the eco perspective, which here we are engaging students from the understanding of their very own context. And I think that this is a very important reference point, which is actually making us think about this transformative pedagogy and how we can use these horizons in such a way that we can actually engage our students from their different interactions and their different contexts, and also the different actions that they can undertake and how they are going to participate or be engaged in this kind of activities, and not only them, but all other members of the community, and how meaningful it is. I also want to highlight how you connected the 5 different SDGs that you worked with, and how you articulated the high quality education. And I just wanted to conclude my assessment by saying that I think it'd be interesting that within this monitoring and follow-up process, you could assess how the different actors of society are valuing these aspects. For example, reforestation, because it'd be interesting to see what their opinion is or what their intake is in terms of a practice of this reforestation itself. So that would be it by by me, and this is just an invitation for you to complete and to actually work on the systematization and also the follow-up process, as to be able to understand how this co-design and this design on the curricula could actually impact the sustainable development goals. And I thank you very much. We still have 2 minutes. Maybe Miguel or Monica has anything to add on. Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to congratulate the Universidad Benemérita de Puebla. And I wanted just to say that it is very pleasing to have universities from our country and such important universities such as this one that are working with this specific kind of designs. And I just wanted to say, and I just wanted to mention the importance of using this kind of areas that, even though are tackled from a very broad perspective, it is also important to see, and it's very interesting to see how they are engaging their students as to be able to raise this citizenship awareness, as for them to understand how everything that is surrounding them is going to impact them in one or another way, in one or any other way. So that's why I wanted to highlight the design that they had. And I just wanted to add on to what Anai said in terms of the SDGs that you use, because they are very well connected to each other, and how you tackle different issues that have to do with, for example, inequalities, peace, and justice. So congratulations for your presentation. And so thank you very much to both the presenters and also our evaluators. And now we're going to continue with the Instituto Politécnico. And now the floor is yours. Okay, so now we can see your screen. Please go ahead. The floor is yours. Remember, you have 5 minutes to do your presentation. And please go ahead. Thank you very much. So, as members of the Instituto Politécnico Nacional de México, we have Juan Valencia and myself. And here we want to actually correlate the 11 SDGs that we wanted to work with. And here we are going to integrate the different key aspects for sustainability. In order to engage our students in terms of research, our module has to do with the architectonic design or architectural designs. And here we work with 2 different activities that are related to drafting or to deciding what are the specific materials that are going to be used for furniture, and also for the construction of a specific household. And our motivation here is to promote the engagement of our students and to recognize the different ways in which students can participate. And this was done through different hybrid channels in such a way that our students could participate in order to achieve the expected results. In the specific objectives, learning objectives, here we have the connection between head, heart, and hands. And here we explain how everything is going to be reflected in the design of a specific household. So here we have the head in terms of the contents that they have to use, the heart, how they are going to do it, and in terms of the hands, how they are going to implement all of the different conflict resolution that may have to have in this design. And then the assessment of these learning objectives consider the different alignment of the different objectives and the different ways of learning. And also we use the specific rubrics in order to have a more complete and more comprehensive assessment, and also to include the self-assessment in such a way that we could actually include hetero assessment and self-assessment and co-assessment. So we consider 3 different groups. The first one had to do with the well-being competences or the well-being skills, and how we would include, for example, the gender perspective, and for example, how we would include the drinkable water. In the second hand, we would include how we would generate the less impact or the less environmental impact in terms of the construction of new households, and how we would promote equality throughout all of our or initiative. And then in the last aspect, we would have the responsible consumption of different type of ecosystems and how this would be affected or how this would impact the different initiatives. In that sense, we included different aspects in this architectural design, and it was possible to see the different learning objectives that were outlined in the curricular design, and in such way that we had in mind the in-person or the face-to-face learning in order to see how they were going to design, for example, furniture for a house, and also some other strategies to save some water within the households. And in terms of the characteristics, now allow me to change the presentation. I'm going to show you the dashboard. And in terms of the co-design strategy, this strategy helps us out to find out different ways of organizing the different activities that were to be taken. For example, ranging from the decision-making process to the drafting of the different objectives, in such way that we were able to analyze what were the different considerations to have in mind in terms of all of the different racks that we would have for each one of these activities, and how we could have the feedback of these racks from different departmental units. And here we also have when everything is going to be presented, and also how all of this was going to be included within the presentation or within the inclusion of the 12 SDGs, and how each one of them were going to be included, and the ones that would be more important, as well as the different 8 key skills, and also what we would have in everything to do with the head, heart, and hands, which were the ones that we saw the most in this kind of activities, and also the different instruments that had to do with the documents, with the document management, and also the management of some other aspects, such as the online tools, and also the different online tools that they use in order to draft the different drafts. And lastly, we included how the timeline was managed, and for example, how they would manage the information and the technical presentation, and also assessment of the project. With that, we would conclude our presentation. Thank you very much. 5 minutes sharp. Thank you very much for your very comprehensive presentation, not only for sharing with us this presentation, but also thank you very much for your time management. Now I'll open up the floor to the evaluators, and then we will proceed with the Morse University. So let's go ahead. Again, I have to assess this amazing job. First of all, I want to congratulate everything that you've done. I want to congratulate people, for the team from Instituto Politécnico Nacional. You had a great challenge in front of you, given the complexity of the proposal in terms of handling all of this from the architecture department. However, I think it'd be interesting to see that if it is true that all of the different SDGs are somehow correlated in a 20-hour module, it might be very complex as to be able to monitor the development or the achievement of the different skills. It is also true that it'd be pertinent to analyze, having in mind the specifications of the different activities. It's important to assess which would be the direct SDG that would be linked to that specific activity, and how this SDG would progressively impact some others, because we know that by having a 20-hour module, it is not a very comprehensive module that is going to be tackled in a semester or a year. So it'd be very interesting to see how these different SDGs are crossing to each other, and how they're actually being linked in order to monitor the specific impact of the development of these skills, and also the way in which these different fields of knowledge are connected to each other. I think this is a very challenging proposal, but also a very interesting proposal. To conclude, I'd like to say that I'd like to invite your team to continue engaging your students, for them to actually own the 2030 agenda, as for them to analyze what are the specific goals that they are going to have for each one of the SDGs that could be useful to articulate with precision each one of the actions that they are going to undertake. Thank you very much, Nay, for your intake. And Monica or Miguel, if you have any other comments, please go ahead. Yes, can you hear me? All right. Good morning from Chile. Uh, Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to congratulate this team. I fully agree with Nai, and I think that this is a really interesting and really complex work. And I want to congratulate you on the way that you presented this project, because here we have different forms that were presented. Most of the projects used a different form, but this project was very detailed in everything that they did. I just want to congratulate you because actually you provided us with the rubrics that you used to assess each of the action lines that you would draft for this project. But yes, it is true that whenever you're aiming at so many different SDGs, I think it'd be important to say, of course, here we just get to the design of this curricula, but when you're going to implement this curricula, I think it'd be important to have some monitoring tools that are going to provide you with the specific guidelines that you're going to be using in the future and how you're going to impact each of the SDGs. Because as I know, as I see in this report, there are different articulations, internal articulations, and they are codependent to one another. So it is important to see how these connections are happening there and how we are going to be advancing through these different action lines. So I think, so again, this is nothing else but a congratulations message. And just to wrap up, I just want to tell you that I think it is important that even that just as much as you drafted many different assessment tools, I think it would be very important to have some sort of a form or some sort of a document that would help you out to follow up on the implementation of such curricula. Thank you very much, Monica, and thank you very much to the whole team. So let us continue with the Murcia University, and let's go with the next university.
It is really a pleasure to be with you today. We want to show you our design. We are in the University of Murcia. We represent 6 credits in the degree of economics. For this design, we have put on the main focus that the students are an agent of change. What we have done, we have taken into account that students in the future, they are going to face professional decisions that are going to take them closer or further to a sustainable future. This is why we want to have educational activities, but also focus on different activities. We have to focus on the word alliance. Alliance between civil society, schools, and universities. We want the students to know about the 2030 agenda and the SDGs. This design has the intention that the students are going to get knowledge in a more practical way with more participation and action. Regarding the learning domains, in the beginning we had an important problem because of the subject that we were handling. We were talking about only the cognitive aspect, but thanks to the expertise that we have in our team, we were able to find a balance. Our students are going to be able to analyze, to assess documents that allow them to understand the economic system worldwide. Also, to create socio-affective links with the different causes of inequality in the world. And finally, when we focus in the behavioral part, that they're able to work together as a team and get out of their comfort zone. Regarding assessment, for us it's important that it was progressive, that it was through rollout of the entire project. We wanted to include both students and teachers. We have included different objectives, but for us, number 17 is the most important. For us, it is essential that the students think on what to do to achieve sustainable development. On the one hand, we have cooperative learning, the working group, then storytelling, then roles, and simulation. These are different ways to learn. And also, we handle the direct investments. Finally, we have the learning experience or the final thesis. Regarding the objectives that we approached, we can see in the left part how we were able to save different learnings. It is true that throughout the course, these percentages have been varying. In the last stage, we have been aware about the need of focusing in action. Finally, regarding competences, we have touched them, but the most relevant one are those about systemic thought, that is, to understand those complex systems of the economic world. On the other hand, the critical thought, so that the students are able to question the economic practices. Finally, the collaboration tape. This is going to approach the way to handle conflicts. And as a conclusion, we have a board in a more graphic way. It exposes everything we have mentioned and all our efforts to move from a domain where we have the predominance of the cognitive side. We are not moving more to a behavioral side because we have a great emphasis on the objective number 17. Now we leave you with some images of our project, which is currently being elaborated, and also the QR code of our website. Many thanks, Maritza. Excellent job. We were able to talk within 5 seconds less. So thanks to the University of Murcia. So now I open the floor for the evaluators to provide their feedback on this subject. Thank you, Tatiana. I wanted to congratulate the University of Murcia because in the report, the way it is presented, it is given in a very deep manner. We can see all the elements that we handle in the bootcamp in a very good way. And this is shown in the report in a very precise and concise way, including the entire elements. Something I wanted to highlight of the project is how, with through this subject, which is world economy, they are able to create alliances. When we talk about economy, we take it from the local and to the global levels. It is very important to create these alliances so that we are able to create the social development that we all want. They emphasize objective number 17, which is, of course, aligned to the purposes of the subject. I really like the way they went to transformation activities. They go beyond the classroom, they go beyond the school, allowing knowledge to go out from the university and projecting to students of different levels, in this case, in lower levels or lower ages, thus impacting things being done in the university so that new generations can include them in their social knowledge. They have included the use of hands in a very practical way. It is evident the way it's being done and how they're handling their teaching methods. They're moving from cognition to action. All these through competences in a very practical way. The domain of hands is really something very good. So, congratulations for your work. Thank you, Miguel. Any other evaluator, questions or comments? I really validate the com the exposure of Miguel. We apologize. We are not receiving a very good signal in Spanish, but we will do the best to provide an interpreting knowledge. We continue. I think it is something really important for the students to have knowledge. So I really share an excellent initiative and the proposals they have designed for the students. They are challenging, but contextualized to the big scenarios using the different tools. So basically, I just wanted to congratulate that team. Thank you. In the chat, they have been posting some comments. So we now go to Ecuador, to the Catholic University of Cuenca. They're going to do now the presentation, and we also thank the University of Murcia. Hello, good morning. And in Venezuela, good morning also here. Thanks for the opportunity of submitting our work. Basically, it consists in the digital transformation. We wanted to start with some challenging questions. How do we help to optimize resources in an organization to achieve digital transformation? Today, technological transformation with the appearance of artificial intelligence, we are headed to a big transformation. The companies want to they want to compete, they want to provide very good services. So we want to help that companies can endure and keep these kind of services. Our study is based on weeks. Each of the weeks provides planning through the use of free tools. One of the current methodologies is a digital tool to get the best tools and to minimize the use of paper in the organization. One of the points that we need to talk about is transformation itself. That's the title of our work. So we do a simulation on how it would be this transformation. And finally, we talk about re-engineering of the different processes to improve profitability. The model is comprised of 4 weeks, 4 assessments for a total of 20 hours. We start with a methodological way, and that was the beginning of our idea. In our university and in the rest of the world, these kind of ideas can be used so that they can use the GDS in their subjects. How to apply information technology knowledge. That's the idea. To implement activities of social responsibility, the different policies of social responsibility. And regarding behavioral, we have the two results. That is to establish the continuity of the different companies and manage technology for the benefit of the company. What are the main ideas that the students must go through to assess their work. It's through a presentation using a Gantt diagram via a free software. The result is zero paper and corporate responsibility. Finally, it's the presentation and debate about the optimization of processes. We have these assessments. They are going to do them through dialogue. The objectives that we have included are basically number one. Also, number eight, we put the acquisition of infrastructure as one of our main purposes. We talk about automation of work. Then, number nine, about infrastructure, we propose innovation and organizational transformation. Number 11, communities, sustainable activities. Number 12, regarding responsible consumption. And life of the land ecosystems. We have focused in number 8, 9, and 10. We think that these are the core objectives of our work. We have given the different teaching activities through collaboration, through group works. We use gamification and also the problematic problems. Also, having as a model the good practices. They will have to investigate, to do some research about best practices. Are going to generate different debates throughout the group. Thank you, Daniel. We now close with your presentation, and you have 30 more seconds to close your presentation. Here we have the different offer. We can see the 20 hours mentioned and the main competencies to learn these objectives. We also put more time in these objectives, and I think that this is what we have. I don't know if you can give me one more minute. No, honestly, it's just 5 minutes for every person, and in order to respect the time of other people. We gave you 30 more seconds. And we need to be really very sharp with time so that everyone can participate. Many thanks, and now we give the floor to the evaluators. Thank you, Tatiana. We want to highlight from the work that you are doing how to approach the objectives 9 and 10 related to sustainability. I think that this is very important because many of the companies, despite of the technological advance that we have nowadays, they continue with different practices about different activities using lots of paper in a very alarming way, to say so. They are proposing, what you are proposing is very interesting for this reason. You are proposing dynamic that from my point of view, it's going to the interdisciplinary activities where in order to generate technologies that allow the company to become more productive and to have an impact in a positive way in the environment, to reduce the use of this kind of products. Also, you know that when companies are large, impact is relevant. Regarding design, I can see a very good congruence. They are very close to the model 7010. They are very aligned in the way to how to use. They're very aligned on this model. I find a bit of lack of congruence where the domains they are you are emphasizing more the head. Therefore, the domain that is going to be more important is hands. However, that's the only detail to analyze for the future and able to enrich this knowledge. So for now, I think it's just excellent. Monica and I, the floor is yours. I also agree with the words of Miguel. I think it's very important, it's very interesting, the project that you are showing, artificial intelligence. We know that this technology has came to stay. It also makes us to ask ourselves many questions on how we want to give our lessons in UNESCO. We are now creating documents on how to include artificial intelligence in education. And the fact that you are working with corporate responsibility, and I think is really very, very interesting. I also agree that there is a bit of a lack of balance. It's really very much focused on the head. So we need to know what is the impact. Maybe there is like a lack of conclusion. What is the impact that you want to achieve with this project? It was not so clear to me. I think that we need to clarify what's going to be the end product of all this project and the way that you're going to give follow up. I think it's part of a subject. It's important to include the projection of impact and results. That's it. Thank you, Monica, for the link that you were sharing that you can provide via chat while we give the space to the Universidad Andina Simón Bolívar from Ecuador. For this presentation that we are providing today, we can include it in the different presentations. So now go ahead with Universidad Andina Simón Bolívar. Good morning, and we greet you all. We are a team comprised of one student of the specialization of digital communication. We want to protect against harassment so that the teachers can provide a 40 hours course in a hybrid way and in a virtual way so that they can collect and recognize the four phases that occur in the activation of what we call as bullying or harassment. We talk about the intention and the aggression. We have focused in objectives number 3 and 4. This subject has 3 models that my peer Marilena is now going to tell you about. Marilena, are you there? Hey, hello. Thank you, Pablo. Active listening is really a tool to solve conflicts. This is why we have developed 4 learning objectives deployed into 3 models. The first one we call escuchándote, listening to you. The purpose is to detect the barriers that can be present to listen. In the second model we call listening, we want to introduce the ability to listen in the complex cyber world. On the one hand, our students who are teachers of middle education, we want them to learn to identify the ways of cyberbullying, which are so complex in the cyberspace. Finally, in a third model that we have called Learning to Respond, our students have the challenge of building a community of response in a digital platform and in a collaboration repository that is useful and that can be turned into cyber material and in campaigns against cyberbullying. The assessment of the results considers activities of heart and hands, and others are achieved by involving adolescents of our institutions. In this way, we include the SDGs 3 and 4, health and quality education, so that the teachers can develop soft skills to build these positive spaces of mutual coexistence in two phases. One is face to face, and the other one is virtual. All this with the experiences from the youth. The students are going to find the different platforms and they are going to find the phases to avoid the manifestation of bullying. We need to work with all the competencies and the types of learning, because in this way we are going to do a constant modification of the things we have developed. The co-designed board was very, very useful to organize all the models and also the design of activities that help us to move from one model to another, putting more emphasis in the domains of heart and hands. Also considering the time devoted to each activity and build a proposal that is attractive to the different participants. When they take this subject of continuous education with a duration of 40 hours, they have a recognition for their professional career. We put emphasis in the richness of this work of design that has given us and has demanded to position 30 seconds, Marilena, to finish, to question us about the thing that we need to learn. So this process, we really appreciate the close development, the close support of our mentor. Thanks to the team. And now let's go for the feedback. And first of all, I want to congratulate you. In the first place, I really see that it was very original. I really appreciate and thank you that you stopped and decided to work in this topic, as bullying is usually not considered as a subject. I personally am working a lot the subject of gender in my institution. I think the work is not easy. So honestly, we really, because it's related with what I do. So regarding the design, I think it was very, very good. this progression is very aligned on how you stated. It's really focused on the heart, which is something that we are looking for with this bootcamp, not to put so much emphasis in the cognitive side, but also heart and hands, which go like in second place when we look into something different. My only advice would be the following: the subject of times, because apparently we have to hit 20 hours, but I think that you are using more hours than the agreement. So my suggestion would be to adjust the amount of times that you're going to use. But for the rest, I really reiterate my congratulations to you and to consider talking about this important topic. Any other comment? Thank you, Tatiana. I really these topics have been were taken into another place. I really appreciate that you are considering these topics to train these future teachers. Are going to be working with the students. I see many objectives that are relevant to what you do. I see that the objectives number 16A and B, they are more targeted to peace. This kind of activities really contribute to achieve that peace. When we start with peace, this is going to be reflected when these children become adult. Now we go back to the University of Technical University of Pereira. And before they start,
I'd like to greet everyone in this space and thank you very much for your very kind invitation to share with you our proposal. Our university is, our team is made up of Erica Echeverria, Alejandra Gaviria, and Juan Jose Pacheco. And here we're talking about sustainability. And here we tackle 4 different SDGs. The SDG number 5 in terms of gender equity, the number 8 in terms of economic growth, number 9 in terms of infrastructure, and then number 12 in terms of production and responsible consumption. So we work both in the behavioral and the action part of it. And then we had in mind the different ways in which we understood practice, communication, and implementation. And then we also tackled the systemic thinking, critical thinking, and the anticipation skill, as well as the strategic planning, collaboration, and also the self-awareness and the normative awareness. Our pedagogical design was drafted within the context of the strategic planning in terms of the administrative and organizative planning, which is an elective course that is offered for the last semester students, for the students of mechanical engineering. So far, we have had an assessment in terms of what they want to do with the planning that they had to do for some specific cases, that is in terms or within the context of the administrative business. And here we assess different administrative, political, economical, and geographical aspects of the country, in this case, Colombia. And then we try to relate all of these different aspects in order to identify the opportunities and challenges for the organization. At the same time, they assess the different threats that they may have at the human resources, economical, financial, and social areas or perspectives within the organization. And at the same time, we try to identify as well the strengths in terms of the SDGs. It is also important to say that within this module, we also assess the way in which students can actually use their head, heart, and hands interrelated to each other. When finishing this module, we expect our students to be able to have a critical thinking in terms of the macroeconomical, cultural, political, technological, and geographical aspects of our country in terms of the SDGs, as well as reflecting in a critical way in terms of the relationship that the company may have in terms of the organization together with the SDG. And we also want our students to identify the different challenges, different social, economical, and environmental challenges that they may have in the company that they might be working with. At the heart level, we can say that we want our students to be able to engage within the construction of a greater goal for their teams to be able to work together with this. And then in the behavioral aspect or in the hands aspect, we want them to integrate these SDGs within the strategic planning of their companies. And in order to assess all these different aspects, we will have a group presentation in which students are going to present the results or their outcomes of each one of our companies that they're working with. And finally, they are going to tell us about the challenges or everything that they discovered in terms of the compliance with these SDGs. And now in terms of the SDGs that we worked with, as I said before, we worked with the gender equity SDG, where students are going to work with this strategic planning and how they are going to promote gender equality. And for the SDG number 8, we are going to work with in everything that has to do with decent work and economic growth. They are going to work with sustainable strategies for the company to keep on growing and in such a way that they generate decent conditions for the different employees at a company. Now, in terms of the SDG number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, we want our students to realize how they may impact their environment and their context. And finally, in terms of the SDG number 12, responsible consumption and production, we want them to understand how this is going to be connected with the objectives of the organization or the company. Now, in terms of how we have assessed all of this through our learning objectives and the curricular design, we are going to do it through the different management techniques or management strategies that we have in such way that we can assess everything that they have implemented as to strengthen the understanding of each one of the different phases that we want to promote by having a practical approach in order to have this strategic planning and in order to see how the different SDGs are going to be implemented. And lastly, we want to see how these different SDGs are connected to each another and how they're going to use it for the strategic planning of the company in which they're working with. Perfect. You have 30 seconds to conclude. Thank you. So here we have all of the information in terms of the different types of learning strategies that we use and the different skills that we implemented for this design that we implemented. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Erika. And also we want to thank the Universidad Tecnológica de Pereira. Now let's proceed with the evaluators intake. The last 3 groups, I think, we are going to be repeated. So here we are going to be repeating ourselves a little bit. First of all, I want to congratulate this team because I think that the biggest challenge that this project had was integrating, or let's say, readdressing the way in which this specific area was designed, and you wanted to have, let's say, this specific sustainability driven approach and how it was going to be implemented. And in that sense, we can say that you successfully achieved it, because it is important here to highlight that, and this is in general terms, I want to say that it is not the same to just draft a workshop and to start it out from scratch in order to implement the sustainable development goals in comparison to redrafting or redesigning a specific subject as to implement this perspective. And in that sense, I think you successfully managed to do it by having this new perspective with this new strategic perspective. And I also think that it's very interesting, the methodology that you proposed here. And actually, I think that this strategy itself implements those three aspects. And I think that you adequately managed to do so because you are guaranteeing to comply with the three different aspects: head, heart, and hands. So I think this was very interesting to see as well. And something else that I have already mentioned has to do with how long this module is going to last, because I saw that you were not complying with the 20-hour module. And just as a suggestion, I think that given that we're not going to be part of, let's say, the mentors that are going to be, let's say, mentoring you, sometimes I see this project very interesting. And maybe it is important to see how you're going to project it, how you're going to implement it in the future. So I think that the projection was necessary here in terms of the implementation, in terms of what was it going to be like. So in terms of be able to understand what they're going to do in the future. For example, you're going to have some follow-up initiative, you're going to do some monitoring of some specific aspects. So I think it is important to have that sort of projection in your report, because you concluded your report with the rubrics that you use, but let's say that you missed a bit of this projection and how you see this project to be assessed in the future. And that was it. And thank you very much. Congratulations in everything you achieved here. Thank you. Miguel or Nai, is there anything you'd like to say to this group? Sure. This is a very interesting proposal, very interesting work. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate you for the huge challenge that you tackled here in terms of how to incorporate these new actions. But what I'd like to, let's say, raise here, specifically when I was listening to your presentation, has to do with, let's say, with having a reflective view in terms of the learning objectives, because it seems as if you were, let's say, starting from a pedagogical analysis that has to do with this content part rather than the human part of it. Actually, everything that has to do with the internal capacities of the company, depending on the specific activity that they're going to be working with, I think that this has to be closely linked to the social and human aspect of it. Because if we're assessing these internal capacities and we're assessing beliefs and we're assessing motivation, I think this has to do with the social and emotional perspective. And of course, if you do these modifications, we'll see some changes in the dashboard, because when we saw your dashboard, we can see that there is a greater emphasis in the contents and not as much in the human and emotional area. However, I would say that this is a very challenging and interesting proposal, and it is very interesting to see as well how it is, how this follow-up is going to be conducted in the future. Because yes, we were, let's say, left in the air without having specific information in terms of how all of this is going to be addressed in the future. So we can be better, and we want to see how everything is going to be understood from a different perspective: head, heart, and hands. Thank you very much. So now we will continue with the next presentations that are coming from Ecuador. So let's go with the Universidad Estatal de Carchi. And part of the collaboration that we managed to have through this bootcamp, it is also important to see how we managed to work with different countries. So I think this is very important in order to transform the approach that we've had so far. So please go ahead with your presentation. Good morning, everybody. Can you confirm if you can see my presentation? Yes, we can see your presentation. My name is Jonathan Enriquez. I'm a pedagogical technician. We are representing the Universidad Politécnica del Carchi. This is an accredited university that it is limiting, or it is in the border area between Colombia and Ecuador. It is important to say this because we're in the second place in our biometric ranking, and we also have an ecological environmental approach that is 100% committed to the SDGs. And we used as a reference point or a starting point the basic education undergraduate program that is going to train teachers. And for the bootcamp, we used the specific subject of educational inclusion, which is at the second level of a training program out of the 8 different semesters that students had to go through within this undergraduate program. This is a semi-in-person or semi-online program. And what's important to say here is that for us, it is very important for our teachers to understand the philosophical and practical aims of our university as a human perspective itself. So that's why we're going to do our presentation from those principles. Thank you very much. My name is Teresa Sanchez, and I'm a teacher and I'm the academic I'm a scholar from this group. When finishing this module, our students were able to identify what their roles were as future teachers, as we can see right in the middle of this slide. And the second result, or the second outcome that we achieved as a transversal outcome that we achieved, has to do with how to complement to the different activities that are going to be implemented. And the next one has to do with the different pedagogical initiatives that they may conduct and how to implement it through their head, heart, and hands. And that's why we included different SDGs. For example, the SDG number 4, in which we are going to tackle, we're going to work with quality education by promoting opportunities, learning opportunities. We also work with the SDG number 10 that has to do with reducing inequalities, and also the objective number 11 that has to do with sustainable cities and communities, such way that we manage to have every single human settlement for them to be resilient and sustainable through the drafting of different tools, even for the reading comprehension, reading and writing area, in such a way that they can conclude with some specific programmatic initiatives within this bootcamp. And then we also work with this SDG number 16 that has to do with peace, justice, and strong institutions, and that also talks about the specific characteristics of those kids with special needs that are related to disabilities within this approach. This transformative methodology that we use has to do as well with the problem resolution with the resolution of conflicts or the problem solutions based initiative, and how to use the systemic approach and how to use it for the resolution of problems in number 6. And now, in terms of other activities that we have in this matrix that you can see on the screen, you can see in detail how we use the different considerations in terms of the 3 different pillars of head, heart, and hands, and how they were going to be used. However, in the first moment with the ABP, where we implemented 7 different steps, it has to do with the head. It means that we analyzed all the different theoretical aspects and how they were going to be used within the strengths, threats, opportunities, and challenges matrix for them to analyze how to proceed. And then we also talk about the different way in which the different teams were going to analyze all of these aspects as to implement a specific inclusive educational project. And in the last aspect, the collaboration aspect, our students drafted an essay where they collected all of the different practical, theoretical, and let's say very experiential process, because this is something that they lived hands-on. And with that, we'll continue with our presentation. Yes, good afternoon. I'm a scholar as well, and as you can see in this slide, what we highlighted the most was the productive aspect of the hands. And here we had the construction and the planning aspect had to do with some other things, and then we had also some actions by the heart and head as to execute or as to implement this project by using different infographics and videos as well. These objectives, the ones that we use the most, as Tere said it, was the objective number 4, and which has to add objective number 10 that has to do with inequalities, and then the objective or the SDG number 11 that has to do with equitable cities, and then number 16. In general terms, the assessment that within this bootcamp is that we want to engage our students in different reading, writing activities for them to actually boost their understanding of their context. And as professors, as teachers, we manage to strengthen the spirit of our new teachers. 30 seconds to conclude with your presentation. And the skills that we used the most was the skill number 5 and the conflict resolution skill. And in the next one, we'll tell you what we did. Good afternoon, I'm Alvaro Morales. I'm a student of this program, and here in these images, you can see what was the practice we undertook in one of the schools in our country, where we managed to implement all of the different lessons that we had learned and how we implemented this inclusive education and how it was possible for us to use the different methodologies that could be inclusive for everyone to be part of these learning initiatives. And we also, we can also see, I'm sorry, Alvaro, but I have to cut you off. We need to conclude. And yes, we want to be part of a sustainable community. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting. It is very interesting to see these practical aspects of the project. So now let us move on to the evaluator's intake for this project. Okay, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you because this was, this report was very complete. And actually, first of all, I'd like to say that this is a very complete project, and by including all of this within this inclusive education, it is very clear to see how everything was drafted in terms, for example, of gender and inclusion, which takes the higher education to what we want to that place where we want to get to in the future. So it is very important to see those aspects included within this kind of project. So it is, of course, something that we need to analyze as part of the best practices in higher education. You said it yourselves, this conflict resolution, let's say, driver that you use, it was very detailed, and the report that you had, it was very clear as well. The only question that I had has to do with these pictures, because it was not clear for me, like how you did it, because it seemed like you designed it and then you implemented, but it seems like you have been working on this for a while, and now you're going to adjust it with the specific guidelines that we're learning through this bootcamp, as far as I understood in your presentation, because I just wanted to understand a bit better why you had so many of these pictures. But now, thanks to your presentation, it is easier for me to understand that this is something that you had already worked on with. And so this is going to somehow complement some of the things that you have already done in your institution. So in that sense, again, congratulations, because you are pioneers in these lines of work. So again, congratulations. Can I say something here? I don't know if Miguel or Naid have anything to say here. Yes, thank you, Tatiana. I want to congratulate this university, because it is possible to see that this report, it is a very detailed report in terms of everything you did during this bootcamp. And I wanted to highlight two specific aspects. The first one is that you are tackling a specific aspect, and it is very interesting to see how you're tackling this from basic education or primary education. So these students, when they grow up, and I am very, let's say, and I'm very repetitive on this, because these students, when they actually get to higher education, where we have many inequalities as well, and they'll be able, and they are also part of different minorities, not only in terms of these capacities, because in your document or in your report, you mentioned people with disabilities, but it will also important to analyze some other, let's say, variables that are important. For example, the aspect of technology and how some people lack the access to technology, or for example, for these high performance sports people. So there are some other aspects that would be interesting to also tackle here. And I understand that from this, let's say, primary education approach, it's a bit broader, the way in which it has to be understood. But again, it's important to actually include some other minorities for them to be included within this approach. Just as Monica said it, everything that you did here, it is very clear and very well defined, and it is also important to see how you're working on sustainability and how you're, let's say, how you're working very hard on this. So congratulations. Thank you very much, Miguel. And someone else, that is, yes, I wanted to thank you all for this bootcamp opportunity because uh, we started our classes on June the 5th, and with everything that we have done, it was possible for us to implement all of these different activities right away. And given that all of our activities are practical activities, so it is pretty much something that we're going to use at the practical level. So that's the transformation that we're using with our teachers. So that's why Albert is here with us, because he is one of our students and he was actually able to experience all of this. And he was an important motivation for all of our other students, because this is actually giving us the insight on how these classes were developed, and this is going to help us out to monitor on everything and to actually to have a feedback in everything that we're doing, and to see how our students are experiencing firsthand all of these different implementations or all of this. And you are more, and with this, I'd like to tell you that you're more than welcome to come over to Carchi. We are 5 minutes away from Colombia, and as you know, the borders of our countries, they are very, let's say, um, uh, poor, or let's say we live in some limiting conditions. So for example, we have many different ethnicities. For example, the Pasto culture, the Arawak indigenous communities in our areas, and so we have these different populations that are coming here and that are, let's say, being promoted from different majors office. For example, the Tulcan office or the Tulcan mayor's office. And so we're trying to address and we're trying to cover different populations, but unfortunately we don't have internet connection. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much for everything we learned with you. Thank you very much. With this, we have concluded our presentations. Even though we haven't concluded today's session, I'd like to open up the floor to Yuma and Maria for their remarks. And after that, we can move on to the closing of today's session. So Yuma, please go ahead. Yuma and Maria, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Tatiana. Once again, I want to congratulate each of you and each of the teams, because we know and understand the great value of each of these initiatives and each of these projects. And it is very interesting to get to know all of the different works that you have developed within this bootcamp. And of course, everything that you do as well out of this bootcamp. It was a true pleasure to get to know you and to get to work alongside with all of these institutions. Of course, given that you have done an exceptional job, I want to also highlight the special role that each of our mentors have played within this project, within this bootcamp, as well as our evaluators that have been joining us today. So we have Monica, Ney, and Miguel. Thank you very much for everything you've done. And of course, you know them better. And we also have, till a couple of minutes ago, one of teachers that it is also a teacher of these courses. She was Vicky, was a part of the English bootcamp, and we hope to actually create a sense of community. So this bootcamp, it is not going to be finished today, but we can actually expand it out to further opportunities in the future. And Maria will tell you a bit more about this, that of course we want to continue strengthening this knowledge network where we get to share many different intakes, many different opinions. And I would like to also thank all of you, because you did all of this possible. Yuma, thank you very much. As usual, it is a pleasure to join you and join UNESCO USALC as well, and to join all of these people that we can see here on screen. I'd like to thank each of the mentors and facilitators and assessors or evaluators that were joining us today, as well as Tatiana, because she was the moderator today, and not only today, but throughout the bootcamp. So certainly, congratulations to each of you. It was very impressive to get to see each of your presentations. Actually, Yuma and myself, we were chatting on the specific, on how excited we were about witnessing how you implemented the different contents that you learned throughout bootcamp, and how everything is connected through our heart. And this is what we want to do with this model and with this program. So we are very proud of everything that you've achieved. And something that is particularly important for me is to see how students get to be engaged within these projects and how they can actually do these presentations, like bringing their heart to these talks. And with that, I would say that our job is done here, because we can feel that our job is done, or the job that we had in mind at the beginning of this bootcamp. And so this is the time to congratulate you. And now it is the moment to go to the awards. Again, all of you deserve an award for everything that you did, but Yuma will tell us who the winner of the award is. And as you see here, these are the awards that will be sent to the winning teams. And these awards have been drafted by local crafters in Scotland. And this year I thought about having let's say a local crafted award, and that's why we work with these crafters in Scotland. And actually the person who settled this company was a teacher himself, a primary school teacher himself, in terms of technology on the IT area. And so he worked with sustainability as well. But unfortunately, he fell in sick, and that's why he decided to retire, and he set up this business. So that's why I wanted to share this story with you as well about this this company's owner. So let us proceed with the awards. Okay, so the winner is. So once again, I want to thank you all, and I want to actually thank each of you for your participation. And to the Instituto Politécnico Nacional, thank you very much for the proposal you raised, and thank you very much for sharing all of this with us. Congratulations for this acknowledgement. And we also want to acknowledge everything that our mentors did, but let's narrow it down to one mentor. So now let's talk about the mentor or the winner mentor, who is not necessarily with the winning team, but we actually sent you a form to assess your mentors. And then we assessed all of this with this feedback that you gave us, but also in terms of the amount of assessments that we received. Some teams only sent just one, and some others sent 2 or 3. So those were the criteria that we had in mind. So the winner is Carmen Garcia, who is coincidentally the mentor of the winning team. So congratulations to this wonderful leading team in terms of the transformation, the deep transformation and the generation of new agents of change. So congratulations to you all. Thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you for all your support, and thank you for everything that you've done. But without a doubt, Carmen assessed this process. And here I can see that the team in Mexico are very excited, and how happy you are by this great news. So we had our director here, and please do not leave because we haven't finished yet. We haven't finished.
Now, Yuma, would you like to say something else? Thanks to all you for this support work. We will talk about another initiative that's been working in Latin America and the Caribbean. We want to invite you to continue working in education for sustainable development. We know that you are generating this transformation process. So we have a program addressed to the different deans for the purpose of consolidating this transformation movement, which really starts with strategic planning and the education model, of course, of the institution, because you, as teachers, you make it possible. Now we will go to another point. So thank you, Yuma. Many thanks. We invite you in the Spanish bootcamp and also in the English bootcamp. to participate in this initiative, which is not really associated with the boot camp, but this is a project that I'm working with UNICEF. It's called Green Pal. This is a project that began some years ago. The association is working with UNICEF in this project, developing a chatbot. The chatbot is going to offer training opportunities in the areas of climate education, where we will have the participation of different universities. We received almost 2,000 replies between English and Spanish. You were the most active. In English, there was no much activity, honestly. But here I want to show you some replies. More than 400 replies via email. And we received other replies, but we need to validate the identity. 78 completed 2 or more tasks in Spanish. If you remember, these were 6 tasks that were part of GreenPal, and the others completed the entire tasks in Spanish. I will show you what they have achieved. Now, in the chat, when they started to interact with the chat, we asked them how did they feel regarding their knowledge of the climate change subject. Also, how much confidence they felt on what to do about climate change. And as you can see, we assessed all the answers and we see a positive change. And there was a very positive change regarding their perception in their ability to take action. For this campaign, we had a board for English and Spanish, which included how they were doing in the competence. This is the English board and this is the Spanish board. They were able to see how the competition was going, and we assigned different head points. We provided quizzes and tests. The hands points were when they shared the awareness campaign and the posters that they developed. I want to share this because every time I see it really fills me with joy, because you can see the things that we have via Green Pal. As you can see in the left side, this is the model of action which was done by UNICEF in the United Kingdom, and it's being used in the Green Path model. Many of them didn't have a way to do it, but they do it in writing by hand. They also send these kind of posters. This is an ice cream with the message "Stop the Melt." Water issues. So many of them have been done manually, as you can see in the pictures. This is action for fashion, and they use many resources to communicate their campaigns. Here we have the winner, and we go back to the National Polytechnical Institute. You saw it in the board. And where is the student? Who of you is the student? Are you here? Well, congratulations. Very, very good. Here, I have the pleasure of introducing you. Your name is Juan Antonio, right? Juan Antonio Valencia? That is right. Juan Antonio, a pleasure to meet you. I have the honor of introducing you. I want to introduce you to our to Abdul, our ambassador in United Arabs. So if you want, he's going to speak in English. So remember that you can use the interpreting button. So Abdul worked since he was very little. He was mobilized because everyone was using plastic bags. And this was seen by the people, and they were given a documentary, and that's how he became famous. So Abdul, I don't know if you are present. If you want to share some words to receive Juan Antonio. Let's see, we have Abdul here with us.
Hello, hi, can everyone hear me? Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Abdul Mukit. Apologies for speaking English, but I hope the interpreter is doing a very good job. So yeah, I hope you can understand me. My name is Abdul Mukid, and I'm also known as the paper bag boy. I've been working with sustainability from almost 11 and a half to 12 years. And what I have met Miss Maria about a month or a month and a half ago, and she introduced me to the Green Pal Fundo project and the ALDST organization and all that they're doing. And I must say it's amazing. And even looking at the previous year's boot camps and even this year's boot camps, it is amazing. And I would like to thank and congratulate each one of you for your amazing work and also the presentation as well. I just want to congratulate Mr. Juan Antonio, and apologies if I pronounce this wrong, Instituto Politecnico Nacional in Mexico. And it's an amazing job. And thank you for being a part of this. And I would also encourage all of you all, if you could be a part of the Green Pal Fundo project as well, because sustainability in education is very much required. If we build sustainability and green climate action within students from a young age, we can make sure the values stick towards their whole life. So yeah, thank you for having me here. And congratulations, Antonio.
Thank you, Abdul. It's really amazing to have you here.
My
Well,
pleasure. Thank you
Antonio,
so much for
maybe
having
if
me.
you want to be closer to the camera. Juan Antonio, welcome. The award that we offer is that the winner of Green Pal was going to be part of the committee of Green Pal with UNICEF. So welcome. We are doing many interesting activities with the COP28 climate conference. It is a very special time to unite to this cause, and we really expect to keep working with you. I think you really got all the awards. You have done an excellent job. So really many thanks. Wushi was also going to be present, but she could not do it, but she's going to she sends her greetings. Thank you very much, Abdul, for your participation. Yuma, I believe we have reached to the end, and I really wanted to thank you for all this information, for sharing. What we talked this morning with the English team, we expect to continue with this community. We have a group in LinkedIn, but also we're going to try to organize other events in the future to get together, whether face to face or hybrid. Some of you can go to a specific center in Latin America or in Spain when we can do it. It's really been a pleasure to work with all of you, and we expect that all this learning really get far away to take care for our planet and for all of us. So really thank you all. Yuma, go ahead. Thank you, Maria. I really add to your words. It is important that this program only has a transformation purpose. It's going to serve as a model to establish strong links between all of you. It's part of the academic mobility, teachers' mobility, research that you are able to work together from the different institutions and use all your skills. These are part of the targets that we have to consolidate all the things that we are doing to create a consortium and to be stronger together. I would like to leave you with this short reflection to really recognize the value that we are doing and the value of the work being done with the young people. We have received a report that more than 100 of the country's members they are really afraid about their future, of course, because of the climate change that really affects us. And more than half of the institutes with whom we have worked in the member state members, they do not have this curriculum to make reference to UNESCO regarding sustainable development. So it is important that you become multipliers and really become agents of change. We have the duty of strengthening. Before we finish, I would like to ask you that on the 5th of June, we have the Day of the Environment, and this is a wonderful opportunity to share a video that you can all share a video, please, as you consider of maximum 30 seconds to give a message to the region, to the world about the importance about changing this climate change and the impact on all the world processes, migration and social equality, and of course in the entire world. So this is the invitation for you to submit a 30 seconds video. You have direct contact. So you are able to we're all able to raise our voices to talk about this important subject. So many thanks for continue fostering this process of change. Thank you to the interpreting team that have helped us a lot, and to all of you that help us to continue learning. That's the idea, to continue learning. So thank you very much on behalf of UNESCO. Thank you to all that were present with Green Pal. We're going to continue. Now let's take the picture, please. If you can turn your cameras on, we're going to take this wonderful picture. If you still have energies, let's go. Thank you very much. Let's keep in touch. You know where you can find us. And in Mexico, we're going to have some fireworks tonight. I really expect to meet you in person and give you a warm hugs. Goodbye.